So if you're a man that eats a normal modern diet, then there's a huge chance that your testosterone levels are not optimal, and you could feel twice as good and have way more energy and way more libido than you do right now. And that's because you're probably eating a lot of common foods that are hurting your testosterone levels. So I'm going to give you 8 testosterone killing foods that you definitely want to avoid if you want to double your testosterone levels naturally and feel your best. But more than just individual foods, I'm going to give you entire food groups that you need to avoid. So testosterone killing food group number 1 is phytoestrogenic foods. So what's a phytoestrogen? Well, it's a plant-based compound that mimics estrogen in your body. And if a man eats too many phytoestrogens, it can lower his testosterone levels and make him more effeminate. And this is why the term soy boy even exists. Now, most plant foods have some level of phytoestrogens, but that doesn't mean you should avoid all fruits and vegetables, even though I know there are people out there that say that. But I like to take a more balanced approach, and I recommend just avoiding the foods with the most phytoestrogens in them. So the number 1 food on this list is soy. So to put it simply, a man who wants to have good testosterone levels should never, ever eat soy. Now, other foods that are high in phytoestrogens that you want to avoid are flax seeds, oats, lentils, and chickpeas. Now, I know these are a staple of a vegetarian diet, and I think that's one of the reasons why vegetarian men tend to have lower testosterone levels on average. Now, a few other foods with high phytoestrogens that you're going to want to avoid are almonds, peanuts, barley, and hops. And so that means don't drink beer. And yeah, I know that's a bummer, but phytoestrogens are one of the main reasons that men develop a beer belly and man boobs. And like I said, a lot of plant foods have phytoestrogens in them, but it doesn't mean you have to abandon vegetables altogether. Just take a balanced approach and eat the vegetables that you actually like. And then cook those vegetables in butter so that their micronutrients will be as bioavailable as possible. And most of all, don't let anyone tell you that you have to eat a certain vegetable because they think it's good for you, especially if it's soy. Testosterone killing food group number 2 is nut milks. So I mentioned almond, flax, and oats already. And these are very popular to use as a milk alternative, along with things like soy. I mean, soy milk, come on. But I want to warn you against using any sort of nut or seed-based milk alternative. So nuts and seeds are very high in plant defense chemicals known as lectins and phytic acids. And these chemicals cause a lot of gut inflammation, which is a huge killer of testosterone. And nut milks always have preservatives and a bunch of other shady ingredients that can harm your health. Now, I know these are marketed as healthy, but they're not. And the solution is really easy. Just use real whole fat milk and get raw milk if you can. But if you can't get raw milk, just get organic vat pasteurized milk. Now, the fats in raw milk are also great for your testosterone levels. So don't be afraid of real milk. It is far better for you than any sort of nut milk or so-called healthy milk alternative. Testosterone killing food group number 3 is processed foods. So processed foods have no micronutrients in them, and they're made entirely out of carbs, sugars, and oxidized seed oils. So each of those ingredients on their own creates inflammation in your body, and that hurts your testosterone levels. Now, processed foods also give your body a huge insulin spike, which can lead to excess fat storage over time. And because they don't have any micronutrients, your body has to use its own micronutrients to digest these processed foods. And so that means you're actually robbing your body of micronutrients every time you eat them. And low micronutrients is one of the main reasons for low testosterone. And so what are processed foods? Well, that's bread, pasta, cereal, tortilla chips, pastries, basically anything in a package and anything with more than 4 ingredients or anything with canola oil or other seed oils in it. So the solution here is to seek out whole food alternatives to those processed foods. Things like rice, sweet potatoes, fruit, and honey. Just whole foods with 1 ingredient. Now, testosterone killing food group number 4 is wheat and most grains, especially if they're not organic. So the proteins in wheat and most grains create inflammation in the gut. And like I've been saying, any inflammation in your body, especially in your gut, is going to lower your testosterone levels. And non-organic wheat especially is heavily sprayed with glyphosate, which has been linked to a host of health problems, from general inflammation in the body to cancer in the body. Now, organic white rice is an exception, but it doesn't have a lot of micronutrients in it either, so I don't recommend it all the time. Now, I know this one is a bummer because wheat is delicious, right? Yeah, it is. But nothing tastes as good as high testosterone feels, I can promise you that. So instead of wheat, have a potato or rice or a sweet potato. Now, testosterone killing food group number 5 is seed oils. And these are also known as vegetable oils, but they come from seeds. So these are things like soybean oil, canola oil, sunflower oil, cottonseed oil, And there's others, but that's a pretty good list to start. And so these seed oils consist of a fat called partially unsaturated fatty acids. They're known as PUFAs. And these are very unstable fats that very easily get degraded by heat. And unfortunately, the process to make these seed oils requires a lot of heat. And so that means that these oils are oxidized and rancid by the time they're even on the shelves. And so when you eat them, they create inflammation in your body and a whole host of health problems. And these are all going to be bad for your testosterone levels. And these oils are in all processed foods. Plus, they're used a lot in restaurants. So that means you're going to have to make a real effort to avoid them. So to start, prepare more of your own meals and cook them in butter and ghee, because those are saturated fats, and those fats are stable and they're good for your testosterone levels. Testosterone-killing food group number 6 are vegetables that are high in oxalates. So oxalates come from a plant defense chemical called oxalic acid. And when it binds to minerals, it forms these crystalline structures that just build up in the body over time. So if you're sensitive to oxalates, they can create a lot of inflammation, which, like I've been saying, that causes your testosterone levels to go down. So the foods highest in oxalates are spinach, soy, yeah, soy is the worst. Also Swiss chard and rhubarb, but that's okay because you're probably not eating chard and rhubarb. But there's also wheat and wheat gluten. So there's wheat yet again. Other foods that are high in oxalates are almonds and peanuts, along with several other different nuts. And of course, these are also high in phytoestrogens, like I mentioned. Even cacao or just chocolate is high in oxalates. So if you're not sensitive to oxalates, you probably don't have to worry about this list quite as much. But if you want to optimize your testosterone levels, it's a good idea to avoid high oxalate foods for a while and then to minimize how often you eat them. Testosterone-killing food group number 7 is non-organic produce. So pesticides and herbicides are xenoestrogens, and these are compounds that mimic estrogen in your body. So if we have high levels of actual real estrogen in our body or high levels of xenoestrogen in our body, our hypothalamus is going to sense that, and it's going to tell our pituitary to stop producing testosterone. And this is because our natural estrogen is actually derived from the testosterone that we produce. So we naturally produce all the estrogen that we need in our bodies, so we absolutely have to avoid xenoestrogens. And the solution here is to eat more organic food and to avoid heavily sprayed produce. So do a search for the dirty dozen foods to find out which ones have the highest pesticide loads. And then search for the clean 15 to see the ones that are grown with the least amount of pesticides, and just focus on those. Testosterone-killing food number 8 is plastics, which also contain very high levels of xenoestrogens. Now, I know you don't actually eat plastic, but how often do you drink plastic? Well, it's probably more than you think. And this is because all plastic bottles, even the so-called BPA-free ones, have xenoestrogens in them. And so the paper that fast food comes wrapped in is coated in plastic. And even a lot of aluminum cans are lined with plastic. All of the so-called paper cups from restaurants or coffee shops are also lined with plastic so they don't leak. And that means that every time you get a hot cup of coffee in a paper cup, it's actually sitting in hot plastic. It's the same thing if you get soup to go or you get one of those little cup of soup things that you make at home. Those cups are lined with plastic. And so xenoestrogens like BPA transfer into liquid much more easily when they're hot. And so you're probably drinking and eating a lot more plastic-based xenoestrogens than you realize. So the solution here is to never drink out of plastic, never eat food out of plastic, and never store your food in plastic containers. So for drinking, you want to use glass or stainless steel water bottles, and for coffee, you want to drink that out of ceramic, and make sure the lid on your coffee cup is silicone, not plastic. And then for food storage, you want to store your food in glass containers. Now, it's okay that those lids are plastic because your food doesn't actually touch it. Now, as a bonus solution, I want you to only drink filtered or purified water. So our water from our tap is traveling through plastic pipes. It's got all kinds of chemicals and herbicides in it. It's got fluoride in it, heavy metals in it, just a whole host of contaminants that you do not want in your body. So get yourself a good reverse osmosis system, and remember to put your water in a glass or stainless steel bottle, never plastic. So now that you know these testosterone-killing food groups to avoid, here's a video on raising your testosterone levels naturally, and it has information that you're definitely going to need, so be sure to check it out.